Welcome to Two Doctors Homestead. My name's Daniel.
And I'm Janet.
And this is Coffee Talk. And before we get into the topic of the day, we want to share the coffee. This is Tactisquatch from Black Rifle Coffee. I think it's great. I think we both really enjoy it.
I really like it, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of our favorite coffees. Black Rifle Coffee supports veterans, ex-military, first responders, law enforcement, so they're a great company, veteran owned, and great coffee, so I'd highly recommend their products. Today we're going to talk about raising backyard pigs. We've been doing it for a little while now. Really, we raise the backyard pigs for meat, right? Mm-hmm. The point is to bring home the bacon, right? We give them a lot of love, but we're ultimately raising them as livestock for food, right? So there's a couple different types of pigs that we wanted to talk about, and we're actually switching types this year. So if you want to talk a little bit about might be a feeder pig versus, say, a lard pig.
Yeah, typically we raise feeder pigs, which they grow fast in a short period of time. People usually harvest them around 6 months. We typically harvest them around 10 months.
Yeah.
But we're going to switch to lard pigs because we have a freezer full of pigs. We have 3 hogs right now.
We don't need more pork right now.
Yeah, we don't need more pork right now. So, yeah, we have raised red wattles and red wattle crosses. So we've had some red wattles that have been crossed with Berks, and we've had red wattles that are crossed with Old Spots. So, yeah, we're gonna move to the lard pigs because they take longer.
Right, they're slower growing, they're smaller. Yeah, and we've talked to people that, when you have a feeder pig, there's a point they'll get to 200 pounds, 300 pounds, and if you keep feeding them, they'll keep going 600 pounds, 1,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. We've been harvesting ours in that 600-800 pound range.
Yeah, there's kind of that sweet spot that some people take them at 6 months.
Right.
But there's a time in between 6 and 10 months where their feed to growth ratio is just astronomical.
Right.
But they pound a lot of feed.
Yeah.
But they're actually converting that feed to meat more.
Yeah.
So, what I've noticed is that around 7 months, you're getting 100 pounds of growth a month.
Right, absolutely.
So that's why we prefer to keep them till 10, because you're putting on, you're doubling in size almost between 6 and 10 months.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to deal with a 600-pound pig.
Right.
Right. That's a lot. That's a lot more work, a 600-pound pig versus,
to harvest it is,
say, a 200, 300-pound pig. So I understand, nothing against people that want to, hey, it's 200-300 pounds, it's time to harvest.
Right. And I really like raising pigs.
Yeah.
I just think they're wonderful animals. Yeah. So if I can get 3 more months.
3 more months of time with the pigs.
I'll take it. And, it gives you a heck of a lot more meat in your freezer.
Right. Absolutely. They do eat more, right? It is that last couple months are going to be the most expensive couple months of the pig's life.
They're the most expensive, but that's when they're just putting so much weight on.
Yeah, they're putting much weight on. Absolutely, I think we hit a point where they were going through almost $20 worth of feed a day. So that starts to get really expensive, but once again, you're getting that back. You're raising the pigs for meat, and the longer you keep them alive, the more meat they're going to get.
Well, especially if you render the fat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you render your leaf lard. If you render your fat out for soap, it doesn't matter if you keep them until 10 to 12 months, because even if they're putting more fat onto with meat, you can still use that for soap making.
Absolutely. So you still use the fat, So we talked about the feeder pigs, generally the feeder pigs because they grow fast, right? There's something you're going to feed a lot, and they're going to get big and you eat them. And then there's more the lard pigs, which might be the Mangalistas.
Your potbellies.
Right, potbellies, the coons.
Your coonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And generally you're going to have a higher percentage of lard when you harvest the animal. Right.
You'll have a higher percentage of lard, like visceral fat, but you'll also have a higher percentage of marbling inside of the fat. So, your pork chop is going to be a lot more marbled on a lard pig than it is on a feeder.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they call the Mangalistas like the Kobe beef of pork.
Yeah.
We haven't raised one or butchered one, so I don't know. But they say that because the lard, there's a lot more fat in the meat, a lot more marbling, as you said. So this year we're doing the coons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they're cute.
Right,
I
yeah,
love
you just
pigs.
want some cute pigs
I love
right
pigs
now.
with wattles,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they are double wattled, so yeah, they're cute.
Yeah, they're gonna be cute. Like
I don't want
babies.
mangalistas because mangalistas are rooters.
Yeah,
And if I'm for our setup, we need to keep that mangalista for 18 months.
yeah,
And rooting on our patch of land for 18 months, I think would be a bit too intense.
right, right.
Coonies are grazers, so
Yeah.
for our patch of land, it's easier.
It should be a lot easier,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the end result's probably gonna be similar,
Yeah.
right? We
A
can't-
mangalista is a bigger pig,
Yeah,
so
it's a
you're
bigger
going to get a bigger harvest out of them.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So types of food to feed the pigs. We do a standard pig feed that we get at Atwoods. It's a 40-pound bag. A pig feed, you start with, I think I'll call it baby pig feed. I don't think it's called.
It's a starter.
Starter pig feed. We
Yeah.
start with the starter pig feed that we buy, and then we move on to the regular adult
Right.
pig
It's a starter
feed.
grower, and then we move
Yeah.
on to the finisher.
Into the finisher, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't super technical on my terminology.
That's what got me.
Right, exactly. Pigs can eat, their digestive system is very similar to ours.
Yes.
So they can eat just about anything we can eat. There's some exceptions. There's some things you shouldn't feed your pigs.
Yeah.
But in general, like you can feed them chocolate, like dogs can't eat chocolate. They have a very similar digestive systems to us. You hear about people feeding their pigs acorns, people feed their pigs extra milk from their cows.
Yeah.
We certainly feed our pigs a lot of eggs.
Yeah, we do.
You can feed the raw eggs. From what I've read, that's not always the best thing to do all the time on feeding the pigs the raw eggs, so we cook the eggs.
Yeah, I prefer to cook them.
Yeah, but you could if you want, if you just
And
want to dump the eggs
there's
in.
the team of don't give your pigs any meat, and then there's
Yeah.
people who will feed your pigs meat.
Right.
It really depends on how you want to raise your pigs. A lot of people don't want to, move disease from, a cow to a pig,
Yeah.
so they don't do any meat.
Right.
Now you have to look at your local ag extension to see
Yeah.
the laws in your area for feeding pigs table scraps.
Yes, right,
It is legal where we are,
Right.
as long as it's for personal consumption,
Right.
not commercial. So if you're doing this for personal consumption, but there are states that do not allow you to feed table scraps, even if you're harvesting for personal consumption.
yeah.
So your local ag office would be able to point you in the direction to where that information is.
Right, and it may not be legal for you to raise pigs where you're at, especially have an HOA. So do check with your county or your city codes.
Right.
You don't want to go through all the effort to set up a pig pen and get all set up only to find out from your neighbors that you're not legal to have pigs.
Right.
Right, so there's.
When pig rescues are overflowing, they don't.
You
even
probably
know
are,
about it.
yeah. So do your research obviously ahead of time, but don't be afraid of getting into feeder pigs. I know we've done some videos on that before. They're large animals.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say they're scared of feeder pigs.
Yeah,
They're scared of the weight that they carry,
Right,
but
right.
they really are very gentle animals.
Yeah.
If you understand pig language and where to position yourself between the pig and in their pasture, you just need to follow some rules and you'll be safe.
Yeah,
Pigs have very specific type of behaviors and they like routine.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to jump in, assuming it's legal, of course, to try to raise the feeder pigs. Go for the bigger pigs.
Yeah, they're sweet.
They're very intelligent. They're very sweet. If you're kind to them, they'll be kind to you. And we're always
Yes.
kind to our animals. We like to spoil them.
Yeah,
as
a
much
pig
as we
is more intelligent than a dog.
Yeah.
And they're more trainable
Right.
than any domestic animal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
done research on pigs where pigs play video games.
Yeah, which is
They
interesting.
can play video games, they can recognize themselves in mirrors. They are a very intelligent animal.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as you treat them well, there's no reason they would attack you, right?
Right.
It is a large animal. If you're in their pen, if you're moving around, you want to be aware that, hey, it's a large animal. You don't want to accidentally, get knocked over, knocked down, something like that. But, unlikely, I would say, that they're just going to straight up attack you, right?
Right, they're not going to
Yeah,
attack.
they're not going to just attack
I
you.
would- Unless you're beating them all the time.
Right, yeah. Unless
You know,
you're
if
being
you're
mean
beating
to
them all
if
the
they
time
feel
and being mean to
threatened,
them,
right, if they
they'll
feel threatened.
right.
Yeah.
They'll feel threatened and they'll remember because they're a
Right.
very smart animal.
Yeah, yeah. We talked a little bit about grazing pigs versus rooting. If you want to talk about that at all, the pigs we had were more of a rooting pig.
Yeah, most of the feeder pigs are rooters.
Yeah.
Now the red wattles, I mean, I like their personalities. They have great personalities, but their meat is really nice too. It tastes really good. But they're rooters.
Yeah.
There's Idaho pasture pigs, which they crossed a feeder pig and they crossed a lard pig, and you're supposed to get the benefit of the marbling of the lard pig and the benefit of the grazing of a lard pig, but you're supposed to get the size
of a feeder
like the
pig.
ham size and the body width and length of a feeder.
Yeah.
I've never raised those, but it'd be interesting to know if they really do carry those characteristics, because that's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because the red wattles, they rooted.
Yeah, they're rooters.
Right, they did root.
Yeah, so are old spots and Berks and Durocs and
Yeah.
They're rooting pigs.
Right.
Because they're in the wild, they're going to root. They're going to go through and they're going to rooting is they're literally going for the roots of the plants. They're
they'll eat the roots.
They're eating the succulent roots.
Yeah, they're eating the roots.
And they're eating the earthworms and the beetles and
Yeah. And that's something I want to get into was the pig pen. Ours is about 30 by 30, right? We built a 30 by 30 pen. We used 4x6 posts, 2x6 cross beams with wire on the inside and everything cemented in. And it's held up. It's held up pretty well. It's held up, I think, for a couple years now. Haven't had any issues with the pigs escaping. The fence is 3 feet high. Theoretically, they can jump. If you look at videos, they can jump 3 feet. If they wanted to get out, they could get out. They've never had a reason to try to get out. Once again, that's their home. They know it's their home. They know that's where they get their food and their water.
Right.
And we have a pig house, and I would recommend.
Pigs like their area.
Yeah, they're very possessive.
Yeah.
They're possessive of their toys. If you give them toys, like you can give them balls or anything like that to play with.
I had one pig that she was like, "Don't touch my stuff."
Right. She's very defensive of her house, of her toys. She didn't like you messing with anything, any of her stuff.
Yeah, no, Mom, I put that ball there on purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Would you please leave it? That's how she was.
Stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the bigger the pig pen, the more greens you have in there, your food bill goes down. So we have a 35 by 50 garden with a gate between the pig pen and the garden. So when we want to open it up, we can let the pigs go into the garden like end of season. We did last year. Technically, it's 2023. We did last year. And we found our food bill dropped in half.
Yeah, because they cleaned the garden for me.
Right, because they cleaned out the garden. They're eating all the roots, they're tilling the soil, they're eating the bugs.
Leaves off the zucchinis. They'll eat anything. They know what they can eat and what they can't.
Yeah.
They won't eat green tomatoes because they know that that's not good for them. So they won't even touch a tomato
But we did
plant.
pull most of the tomato plants out. We did some prep on that. But no, you're right. They're probably smart enough, even if we hadn't pulled it out.
Yeah, they're smart.
They
know not to eat it.
Yeah, not to eat it. So that is one trade-off if you're new to raising pigs. The bigger the pen, the more greens they have in the air, the less it's going to cost to feed them long term.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of people that are serious pig farmers, they're going to rotate, and the reason for the rotation is you constantly get the fresh greens. In the end, it's going to save you money, right?
I mean, the best case scenario is to have multiple acres with padlocks set up.
Right.
And to rotate your hogs
Yeah.
on padlocks within, and you just have to watch the land. If they've already decimated the land at that point and turned it over, then you switch into another padlock.
Right.
And it gives time for that padlock the land to heal and to regrow again. And it will grow better.
Yeah.
Because they've
fertilized it.
Yes.
Right.
So, and then you just rotate them through those. And I mean, that's best case scenario. But I mean, a lot of people don't have, 6 to 10 acres to do it with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you have to really take that land and set it aside because it takes a while to heal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. The other end of the spectrum, if you look at like industrial farming, industrial pig production, we've seen numbers like 5 by 10. They might keep a pig in a 5 by 10 stall.
And it's cement. They do it
on cement slab.
On cement, so then they can sanitize that cement.
Right, easier to sanitize. Yeah. And at that point, there's very little natural. There's no rooting. There's no eating of the plants.
Right.
And from industrial food production, I think they consider that ethical. We want a lot more space. We've even had comments on your videos, hey, you got to put the pig in a pen. And they're not talking about our 30 by 30 pig pen. They're talking about a 10 by 5 pig pen.
Mm-hmm.
Some people feel that's appropriate. We want to have more space. Our pig house is 8x6, which is big enough. You can have two full-size pigs in there.
Yeah, and we only run 2 pigs at a time.
Yeah, we never done more than 2 pigs at a time, even the big feeder pigs, but it's 8x6.
Yeah. I mean, you could do 1 pig at a time, but they're going to be sad.
Yeah.
Pigs are herding animals.
They're social animals.
They like to snuggle. They like to, when they snuggle, if you have 2 pigs, you'll notice that they touch noses when they sleep together. They really bond very well. So they do better. They do better with another pig because if you have a single pig, yes, they're going to act more like a dog, but they're still going to have pig behaviors, and they're going to treat you as part of their herd. So you're going to get a lot of like head swinging. You're going to get a lot of head swinging for play. That when they bump you, they can hurt you just because they want to swing their head to play with you. So
yeah, absolutely. So we do 2. I think 2 is probably the minimum. We would do. If you have space, smaller pigs, 3, 4, 10, 20, whatever, like whatever works for you. But 1 pig it's going to be a sad pig if you only have the 1 pig. Time of year makes a big difference, especially we're talking feeder pigs. You may only have a 6-month lifespan, right? Maybe 9 months, 10 months. If we're talking about the heritage pigs, the coons, we're going to have them 18 months, so they're going to go through a full cycle. But when you're saying only 6 months, 8 months, we've had, you'd say winter pigs, we've had summer pigs, and there is a big difference raising pigs in the winter versus raising pigs in the summer.
Yes. Depends on what you want.
Yeah, it depends on what you want. In the summertime, pigs need a lot of water. They need a wallow. That's how they cool off, right? And we've shown a ton of videos of it, is the pigs need a place in the mud where they can get in and basically get out of the heat by rolling in the mud, rolling in the water. Right.
And if you don't provide them with it, they'll just dump their water barrels.
Right, they'll keep dumping their water to create their own.
They're smart enough to where even if you have do a nipple waterer, they'll just hold on to it and just let it run on the ground.
Right, they'll let it run out,
They would rather be in a wallow to cool off than drink the water.
Right.
Because they need it.
They need to cool off.
The mud on their skin keeps them from getting sunburn, which is huge.
Yeah.
Sunburn with pigs is not good.
Yeah.
And it keeps them cool.
Right. And they need that, We've had that, we've seen that. We try to keep a nice wet wallow for them. We have a trough that they can get in. But every once in a while you'll go out and be like, oh, they drain, like fill up the water on Monday, you go on Tuesday, water is drained, there's water on the ground, you got to fill it back up.
Because they wanted their water.
Because they wanted the water, right. They wanted some water on the ground, so the pig sat there, stuck its nose to hold the lever down to drain all the water out so they could have water on the ground.
Yeah. And pigs are very clean animals.
They are.
So
They're
the
actually
idea of pigs being dirty is a fallacy because pigs, they like to have the mud on them during the time of day when they would get sunburned to cool down. But when it starts getting later at night, then they'll get into the trough that we have for them and they will rinse all that mud off because they like to be clean when they go to sleep. They like their areas of where they sleep to be clean. So pigs will actually find a specific area in their pen to use as their toilet area. They will not just, defecate all over the place. So they have their little area that they'll pick to go to the toilets. They'll have their area for their wallow, and then they'll have their area to sleep if you don't provide them an area to sleep. And they're going to want that area to sleep to be clean.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you always want to have access to fresh, clean water at all times.
Absolutely.
We do that for our chickens. We do that for the dogs. I believe that if that's not an option for you, as long as they have access to fresh, clean water once a day, right?
I mean, I just always make sure
we just give it to them all the time. They need fresh, clean water. For our feeder pigs, they free feed, right? We've got the 2 feeders, and we dump the bags in. They free feed. Really, the feeder pigs, you're trying to get them big.
Yeah, and some people don't. Some people don't. Still give a certain amount and feed twice a day. We prefer to free feed off of hanging free feeders that actually have a cap on it, so then they learn to lift up the lid so they can eat, so it's protected from the environment. But if you want mass food production, your pig is going to put on more pounds if you free feed, and they're going to be quieter. A lot of people will be like, oh, my pigs are so loud, and then they're squealing because they want food. They might be hungry. They're drama queens when it comes to food. They need it.
We notice whenever one of our feeders is empty, they'll bat it around with their head. It's metal, it's bolted to the wood, and they will knock that thing around all over the
Right,
place.
yes.
You know, to say fill it up. You know, out of
Yeah.
food, it's empty.
Yeah, come
Trying to
fix this thing.
shake a little bit out of the bottom here. So you know, we free feed them. I get some people don't. You know, if you're measuring your amounts and you're you're maybe limited on how much you want to spend on
Right,
food or
and that's
something
fine,
like
it's
that.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
usually it's just, for us, it's easier to have a free feeder out there,
Right.
and they like it, they prefer to have access to food all the time.
Yeah.
They'll get up in the middle of the night and just start munching.
Right. Oh yeah, yeah. We had the trail cam on them for a while, and they're up 3 or 4 times a night eating food and going back to bed. You know, the lard pigs is going to be a little bit different, right? We don't feed
Lard
free
pigs, you
feed.
do not want to free feed because
Yeah.
they will put on so much weight that they'll get fat blind.
Yeah.
Which means that the rolls by their eyes is so fat that it covers their eyes and they can't see.
Right. Right.
And it really affects their movement and where they can move and
Yeah.
if they can breathe and,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So the lard pigs will have to be a little more careful.
Yes, you
not
should
to
feed
free
a lard pig a couple times a day.
Yeah.
And not allow free feed out, but you can have free grazing out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so that you can have like alfalfa.
Right. Yeah.
Out and
And we
stuff.
do that. We put out the different grasses as like
Right.
treats or snacks.
Yes.
You
And
know.
it's just, you could just have a feeder with grasses and out all the time for a lard pig, that's okay.
yeah.
But not your standard, you know, feed that has your corn in it and your
Right.
soy and all that stuff,
Right.
yeah.
Right. And we talked about summering pigs, wintering pigs. Once again, that's a different experience than summering pigs.
Mm-hmm.
They're less inclined to want to get all wet in the winter when it's cold, especially if it's freezing.
Right, they're not
They're
gonna have a
avoid
wall.
right, they won't have
They
a
don't
wall.
want mud because it's gonna make them cold.
Right, they're smart enough to know that hey, if I get wet, I'm going to be even colder.
Right.
So they're not trying to get in the wallow. But what we found is that it definitely put a lot of straw, a lot of hay
Mm-hmm.
inside their house. So we got an 8x6 house with a door, constantly packing straw and hay in there because we don't want them to freeze. You know, you
Yeah.
want the pigs.
If you have two pigs, they will use each other to
Yeah.
share heat, but
Yeah.
there's, you still need to have straw in there.
Right, something they can
Because
get warm.
they'll just bury into it. you
Yeah,
know,
they
they'll
do.
Just,
Yeah.
They'll just root down and it'll be
Right.
like you can't see your pig anymore.
Yeah, they just bury into the house. You don't want them getting freezing rain and rained on and all that. I mean, they're sweet animals. You know, I wouldn't just leave them out without some kind of cover, especially in the wintertime.
Right.
You know, so you do need a good pig house for the winter pigs. Last thing we want to hit on is any kind of medicine to think about giving the pigs. You know, you can have things like lice, you can have worms.
Yeah.
You know, there's some common pig.
Lice is pretty prevalent in the summer.
Yeah.
So if you get your pig and they come from breeder, they might have lice. But,
Yeah.
you know, your local farm store will have medicines for that, like ivermectin or ivermectin. Also, the injectable, you know, you can inject them on the side. They'll show where you can. It's like in the jaw area. You know, I've seen breeders just giving them a shot of ivermectin right in the ham. That'll do certain types of worms.
Right.
Then it'll do lice. Safeguard, which is a brand, which is a different chemical that will do other things like tapeworms and lugworms and stuff like that. So you really want to have an idea of what you're dealing with and then what you want to give.
Yeah.
I prefer to deworm every 3 months for feeder pigs because I find that it gives our feed conversion a lot better of a conversion rate because I'm not feeding intestinal parasites
Right.
and the pig.
Right.
So, you know, but there's some people who don't. They don't want to give medicines at all, and that's perfectly fine. You know, I'm okay with giving medicines for worming because especially the ones that root, earthworms, you know, carry the eggs for lugworms, and birds will carry it and beetles carry stuff too. There's a lot of animals in that area that carry stuff.
Yeah.
And when you're rooting in the ground, they'll be getting into a lot of stuff. So, and if you ever hear your pig cough or if they ever go lame or something like that, you're really going to want to get a vet involved because pigs are generally very healthy.
Right.
Pigs do not, I mean, the pigs shouldn't be coughing.
Shouldn't be coughing. Yeah. Yeah.
They usually have pneumonia if they're coughing.
Yeah.
And at that point,
And they could die.
at that point, it's pretty serious. You need to have a vet that gets involved to give them medicine. There are some parasites that, you know, they come in and like roundworms and stuff and lugworms, they come in and they go through the system, and then a pig will cough it out, and it goes back and it comes out of the lung, and then it goes into the stomach and into the intestines and lives there as a natural thing. But I'm talking about, if you hear them cough,
Yeah.
you should really be concerned about it, or be concerned about if a pig's lame. Now, if you do spend a lot of time with your pigs, if that pig is lame, there's no reason why you shouldn't go in there and actually check that foot.
Mm-hmm.
I had a pig once that the leg was, they were stumbling on one leg. It wasn't quite lame, but it was a limp, and she just had a little cut on her pad.
Yeah.
And I sprayed it with some vasotracin spray, and she healed pretty good. So yeah, I mean, if you spend time with your animal, you should be able to do body checks on them just like any other animals, like chickens or anything else.
Right.
And if you do spend time with them, my tip is, if you want to, walk with a stick.
Yeah, we've got a shepherd's stick.
I walk with a shepherd's stick when I go into my pig pen, and it's not like to hit your pigs with or anything. It's just pigs are easy to train, and they're relatively easy to train to track a stick or a ball on a stick. So I train my pigs to, when I walk, to track the stick as I walk, and to not track my body, so that I don't have to worry about them bumping me with their nose or anything. What they do is, when they walk, they'll walk with me, they'll walk next to me, and if they want to get my attention, they hit their snout on the stick.
Right.
So I've trained them to do that, and the easy way to train them to do that is just always bring the stick in and just always walk with it. Yeah. Never touch them with it. You carry the stick with you, because they'll believe it's an extension of your body then at that point. And if you give them treats when their nose touches the stick, they're so smarter than dogs. They will immediately boop the stick if they want to get a treat.
Yeah, you can train them.
You can train them for a lot of stuff. Yeah. Pigs it only takes a week or two for a pig, if you name it, to learn its name, if you call it by name.
Right.
So yeah, I've had pigs by name come to me.
Right, you can call them out.
Yeah, they'll learn their name faster than a dog.
Right. Yeah, very intelligent animals. Yeah. Right. No, absolutely. And, I would say again, if you haven't gotten pigs, if you're thinking about raising pigs, assuming it's legal in your area, don't be afraid to jump in. We butcher them ourselves. You certainly don't have to butcher them yourselves, but you can do some research. There are probably meat processing, butchers, meat processing plants
I would recommend
in your area.
Finding your butcher and getting a date for meat processing.
Yeah. Ahead of time,
because some of them are booked 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, it could be a lot of months. Yeah, and you might even want to make that call before you get the pig, especially if your thought is, hey, 6 months in, call around, see what's available in your area. So we butcher them ourselves. It's a lot of work, right? And if it's your first time, you might not be prepared to do that on your own, but certainly there's information you can read, books you can read, articles, YouTube videos that might kind of get you more comfortable with the idea of processing yourself.
Right.
But a 600-pound animal is a lot to process.
Yeah. Check your local ag extension again, because they might know of places in the area that do classes on butchering. Yeah. I know we have people in our area.
Right, they actually do classes.
They do classes.
Yeah, last time we went to the fair, there were booths set up for classes. You go in, they got it all set up, like, hey, come take our class on butchering an animal, processing your animal. So I think it is a good skill to learn, especially as a homesteader. You should know how to process your own animals, even if it's not something you want to do every time. I think it's moving towards self-sufficiency, not just the knowledge required to raise the animal, but to actually euthanize the animal and then process the animal. That's all part of the life cycle of getting your food. And one thing I wanted to add, we mentioned our pen, said we did it out of 2x6 posts, 4x6 posts, 2x6 planks, wire on the inside. You don't necessarily have to do that. I wanted wood. Some people do hog panels and T-posts. You can do that. You can teach pigs with electrical wire. They learn pretty quick not to touch the electrical wire if you want to go the electrical wire route.
Right, you would have to hot wire, because pigs like to rub against stuff.
They do. They like to rub against the fence.
They'll little shimmy.
Yeah.
So if you're not gonna hot wire it, it better be
sturdy.
really sturdy into the ground.
Right, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think you can do T-posts and hog panels without a hot wire.
No, you're gonna
I
need
feel
to.
like they're probably
you're gonna need to
yeah.
hot wire it.
Yeah, depending on the size. Obviously, if it's little baby pigs, maybe not so much. 600-pound pig pushing against a T-post, probably going to knock it down.
A cooney will knock
It's
the
probably gonna knock
T-post
it down, right.
The thing that you can
Right.
watch about pigs though is the pigs will root,
Yeah.
and they will root the exterior.
They do. They create kind of their own little boundary.
They create their own line of a boundary. So
Yeah.
they figure out what their boundary is in their pen.
Yeah.
And then you'll notice that they're going to root around that boundary because visually, I mean, their vision is pretty far
Right.
behind
Yeah,
them.
pretty good peripheral.
Right. But when their head is down, what they are going to see then is they're going to almost see that berm that they've built on the side, and they know to not go
Right, they
past
know
that.
that's the edge.
So they'll build
Yeah.
their own little berm on the
Right,
edge.
right. They kind of match your fencing with their
Yes.
own little line, which is pretty cool. So
Mm-hmm.
we love our pigs. Check it out. I said don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to raise pigs. I think it's very rewarding.
It is very rewarding, but if you get pigs as a pet, like if you want to get like
Right,
little
it's a little bit
Julian pigs and
different, yeah.
stuff, you just do need to realize that pigs are pigs.
Yeah.
Pigs are not going to act like dogs.
Right.
They are very much pigs.
Yeah, it's a different animal. Don't
It's-
expect a pig to be a dog. It's always going to be a pig. It might be smarter than a dog, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a dog.
Right. It needs to be able to be a pig.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, you enjoyed our coffee talk about raising your own pigs. We appreciate you. Thank you.